You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. We're continuing our ongoing reporting here on Soundside about the mass shooting on Sunday at Seattle Center that left 3 people dead. It happened on the final day of the Bite of Seattle, a big, lively food festival that draws thousands of people every year. So far, law enforcement has a 15-year-old in custody. Police say they believe the shooting could be gang-related. Shootings involving young people have been an ongoing concern in Seattle. And preventing teen gun violence has become a calling for Arron Murphy-Paine. He's the father of Amarr Murphy-Paine, who in 2024 was shot and killed outside of Garfield High School while he was breaking up a fight. That case remains unsolved. Arron has been a vocal advocate for solutions here in Seattle, and he joins me now. Arron, thank you very much for being on Soundside. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start by talking about what happened on Sunday. What was your first reaction when you heard the news about this shooting at the Bite of Seattle?
It was gut-wrenching. It was like, someone took the air out of me. It's something that I dreaded for, the community, for the last 2 years, having to experience what, our family has experienced, has to deal with for the last 2 years. So when I seen that and just how it was just, act of violence, and anybody was, not involved but necessarily affected by it. It was just like, it shows like more that it can happen to anybody. So it was very gut wrenching.
Mm-hmm. And you helped organize a vigil at Seattle Center on Monday, the night after the shooting. Can you tell me about that vigil and the message that you brought to it?
We just, a few minds got together. I guess, I don't know if there was already something planned, but a few minds got together and we just kind of just help amplify, use our influences to bring out as many people as possible. It was a visual first of paying respects and condolences to Kimberly, Carlos, and Junie, all the people that lives was lost in the tragedy. And also was an opportunity to try to get the right people in the environment of hope and knowing that we could, if we all work together, that we can, do something about this. Not working separately in different directions, but everybody working together with a common goal that we can, have some type of hope. And just being someone that's, experienced it from lived experiences, I just wanted to do my purpose in this whole thing, whatever it is. If it's just planting a seed, then that's where I wanted to be.
Can I ask you about that? I mean, a lot of people who are going through grief, they react in different ways to it. And it sounds to me like what you were talking about is that your grief and what happened to you, the loss of Amarr, has kind of given you this sense of duty and like a mission.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. I don't know exactly what that details. I'm a man of faith. So I just know that, with the loss of Amarr, that it brought value into every breath that I breathe, into doing my part, that whatever God has me on this earth to do. And it just brought awareness to everything. And that's one of the things I was saying, before. I could sit and see, a lot of things happening and not internalize them into my household or into, me personally. But after it happened, it's just like, I feel it, I feel it because I felt it. And I just want others to not necessarily be in the shoes that we're in. Darkness will always be, but light always prevails over it. So I chose to just try to take something so dark that happened to us and provide light to those that, are still trying to see their way through it.
There's something that you said at the vigil on Monday that really kind of leapt off the screen at me, and I wanted to ask you about it. You said, "We can't keep dancing around barefoot on broken glass and expect not to get cut. Lives are being lost. Children are being lost to systems. What are we going to do?" Can you talk more about what you meant by that? Like, what do you see as the dancing on broken glass that we're doing right now?
It's just more of, it's a lot of talking and That's why I use the verb do. You know what I mean? It's a verb, like it's an action verb. What are we going to do? We can get into these rooms and come up with these grand ideas that think that's going to fix a problem. But right now, it's we need to get down to the roots. And, I was saying something on the way home. It's like, and everybody wants to be the tree, but nobody wants to be the seed. And so it was just, dancing around broken glass. It's like we're dancing with things that possibly hurt, that's going to hurt us even more. And then when we get hurt, we're only acting off the actual, pain that we feel when it, hurts. But how can we be preventive? How can we, bring more awareness to the glass that we're dancing on, rather than just walking over it and then, just keep on going with our lives, and like I said, the city's bleeding, and how are we going to stop the bleeding? How are we going to stop the bleeding?
There's still a lot of information that we don't have yet about what happened on Sunday at Seattle Center. The city is still investigating. The police are still investigating. City's still releasing details. One of the things that we're hearing from police is that it might be gang-related. Police currently have a 15-year-old in custody in connection to the shooting. One of the individuals who died on Sunday was a 19-year-old who police have said they believe was also involved in the shooting. How much of a role do you think that group dynamics, former beefs, gangs, things like that, in general, play when it comes to gun violence among young people in Seattle right now?
I mean, it's obvious, that it plays a big role. It's just things that it's violence perpetuating itself over and over and over again. And as long as we keep a retaliatory type approach to these things, it's going to just keep on spiraling out of control. I don't sit here and act like I have all the answers, but at the same time, it's definitely a problem that needs to be addressed, and like it needs to be addressed with peace. We got to figure out how we can get peace between these group of young individuals that's just perpetuating violence that may have started 30, 40 years ago.
Can I ask, did you grow up in the Seattle area?
Yes, born and raised.
Has it at all been a learning curve for you, just becoming the father that you are now, a grieving father who's trying to tackle this and speak out about it? Do you feel like things have changed over the years since you were young for these young people who are getting involved in violence? Or, I mean, you said it's 30 or 40 years old. So are these cycles that we're just reliving from decades past?
Yes, it's cycles that we're reliving, but it's getting more and more violent and more just brazen. As anything, anything that's meant for evil, as long as it keeps being fed evil, it's gonna grow out of control like wildfire, and that's definitely where we're at right now. Yes, we've been experiencing this stuff, since I was a child, but at the same time, it's like right now it's getting more and more violent, broad daylight, kids, women, it's definitely spiraling out of control. And it's not necessarily out of control where it's just there's no way of controlling it at right now. There's nothing in place. There's not enough in place to get control of it. And that's where we have to, start somewhere, and it has to be effective, consistent, and intentional. It can't be thinking that we're just going to make a few programs in a summer, we're going to wipe away or drop the gun violence. We got to have a 5-year, 10-year plan that is consistent, that is intentional, and that's giving the youth different options.
I know you have a goal with the Amarr's Heart Foundation to implement more de-escalation training in schools, provide mentorship programs for kids, things to try to give other options besides violence, besides gang life. When you talk about solutions, I mean, is that where it starts? Does it start in schools? How early, how upstream are we talking about when it comes to interventions?
And we have to get in there early. It has to start in elementary school. A friend of mine kind of said yesterday to me that, it's proven that some kids make up their mind by the fourth grade if they're going to be in prison, right? Or live a life like that. Then we have to make sure that we're combating that. We have to tell them, give them more examples at an early age of successful civilian, a successful civilian, and just try to, put more of the examples of what you can be in this world to them in an early, stage. Yeah. It's also, we got to fight the influences, because I don't believe that kids they're born bad. They have living experiences, and not even bad. That's not a word I like to use, but that living experiences influences could turn a kid in the wrong direction. And we have to make sure we have the options at that point of turn to provide another fork in the road. And that's where we got to get out there early. We got to start getting out there early. We're getting wrapped up in talking about how can we get these teens. By the time they're in their teens, it's probably it's late. It's late. You want to be able to save a few lives in elementary school. And that's where, I feel like there's a hole in the ecosystem that needs to be created. And that's what Amarr's Heart Foundation, that's what I would like to do, is try to help create a whole ecosystem. It's not this way or that way. It's every single part moving as a well-oiled machine with the intention of saving these young adults' lives, saving these youth, girls and boys' lives, and also providing resources to the parents that may need it, as far as some, parenting resources. We always say, where's the parents? But what if we don't know their situations? You know what I'm saying? So it's just try to bring a whole ecosystem that's based around compassion, understanding, and trying to make sure that what's coming out of those cycles, whatever we create, could be the youth that creates that keeps the cycle going and going and going and going. We just got to start somewhere, and I feel like we have to start at the bottom.
Have you seen any programs or interventions or like individuals doing work or anything that you can kind of say that's something that works and we need to like duplicate that or amplify that?
I've seen other cities, but that's other cities that have been doing this work longer than us. It kind of this epidemic has just jumped on us out of nowhere. So I'm not naive to say that, we were supposed to have all the answers from the gate, but I have been to cities like Atlantic City, New Jersey, which is, figuratively smaller than Seattle, but at the same time, their consistent work and intentionality was been able to do big things in that city where their violent crime rate has dropped. In other cities like Baltimore, but these are cities that's been consistently, punching at it for, a long time. We're in the beginning. We have to start something that we're willing to punch at for a consecutive amount of years. I like to bring the attention that if, use this as an example. I'm an 80s baby, and when we grew up,
me too.
Right. When we was growing up, they were selling us cigarettes through our own cartoons, right? They were selling us the idea of cigarettes being cool, right?
Yep.
Somewhere in there, a campaign started where they told, they started telling them that it wasn't, where they have the visuals and they have the commercials. Now, granted, we have vape, they got smart. But at the same time, you tell a kid to smoke a cigarette now, they're like, ugh, you're nasty. You're smoking a cigarette? You see, like it was a consecutive campaign that went through a couple generations. I like to think that anything that you want to change for the better, it takes at least two generations of consecutive work. And when are we going to start that? When are we going to build something that we plan to stick to for the two generations and get to work? And I don't have that answer, but I it's just something that I've want to use my voice to be a part of. If I got to be the voice to initiate things and use this pain and turn it into promise and power, then that's what I want to do. If I got to make the people in the high places to help make this happen, use their, start thinking in a different way, then I'm going to go, then I'm on this earth to use that. So it's just, I feel like, when people are saying, what are you going to do? They're asking for immediate results. We're in a microwave type mentality society. So when people say, what are you going to do? They're expecting it to be done by the next summer. That's not realistic. This is a real problem. So if we're dealing a epidemic of gun violence, then we have to, think of a long-term approach, stick to it, and do what we got to do to save the lives that's meant to be saved.
Are they listening to you on this message? Like, does the mayor's office, the police department, does the county listen? Like when you bring this message? I'm not gonna say that they don't. They hear me, and I've said these things in different rooms, and that's all. That's the only thing I could worry about is doing my job of voicing what God put me on this earth to do. I'm unfortunately not in the full position. I'm not a city official that could, really, make sure that these agendas are pushed. But I will always do my best to voice my opinion and persuade with whatever influence that I have for good. Definitely not for personal gain, just for saving another life. My son's situation was totally preventable. It didn't have to happen. Sunday was totally preventable. It didn't have to happen. It's these aren't normal things. You send your kid to school, you expect them to come home. You go to the Bite of Seattle to enjoy the festivities of our city, you expect to come home. Yeah. Arron Murphy-Paine, father of Amarr Murphy-Paine. Just before we go, Arron, can we just bring it back to Amarr? I mean, it's been a couple of years now, and the case is still unsolved. I just wonder how your grief has evolved and what it's like to know that the person or persons responsible are still not brought to justice.
I just got to credit it to my faith. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ has carried me every step of the way since that happened. So I believe that he'll stay true to his promise, and he'll take care of that. That's how I have to operate in that type of mind state in order to even be on this phone call with you. Do accountability need to be? Yes, but that's just the word, period, point blank, that goes across all of us. Accountability for all of us right now. We need to stop. We need to have everybody that's sitting back and watching this stuff happen. We all need to take some type of accountability on what type of Seattle we want to present to the world.
Arron Murphy-Paine, I really thank you so much for being here and for sharing this with us, and the work that you are doing to turn this incredible, unbelievable, unimaginable pain into hopefully saving lives. It's really inspirational, and I just thank you so much for taking time to talk with me.
Thank you for having me, and I just want to end on this one, like I said yesterday. A quote from Martin Luther King says, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice." And we're at a place in Seattle where we got to define what justice looks like to us.
Thank you, Arron.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org or on your favorite podcast app.